Today, the game in focus is BioWare's Mass Effect series. At 4:15, we'll debate the role of sexuality in gaming. Around 4:30, we'll talk to our gamer, Craig Collins, and finally, at 4:45, we'll talk about the music within the series and what it does for the player, with Nick Jerzak and Eric Jaworski in Ithaca College's VIC radio studio on Saturday, October 12th. This is The Game Corner.
Hello and welcome to another grand episode of The Game Corner. It is nice to be here. I'm Nick Jerzak.
And I'm Eric Jaworski.
And you know what, Eric? We have a great set today. We are going to be talking about our game in focus in a couple of minutes here. We're also going to talk about, in our Up for Debate segment, the role of sexuality in games. And at around 4:30, talking to Craig Collins, who's our gamer today. And finally, around 4:45, talking again about the music in the Mass Effect series. And we've got a couple of songs on the CD here that we can actually talk about and things like that. So it's going to be a great thing. So let's just get started and just talk about what we like about the Mass Effect series.
Well, I got introduced to Technically, I did rent Mass Effect one time when Blockbusters used to exist, but then I didn't know exactly what to do. But then you encouraged me to play it again, and with your guidance, you were able to tell me what exactly is going on, what to do, and I definitely enjoyed it. I gotta say, it was definitely my freshman year. I've came over to your single apartment or single dorm.
Yeah, it was just a tiny little dorm, this little tiny nook of a room.
That I always came to your room and then just jumped in right on your bed and played video games. And while you're at work, I was just playing video games in your room, and it was pretty fun to play it, not only the first and second, and then when the third game came out, it was definitely crazy.
I think the main thing that I really, really love about this series, and I think this I'm speaking for a bunch of people here, is that your actions have a lot of weight going from game to game. If somebody has died in the first game, and this we can even say is not even spoilers or anything like that, because it really doesn't matter.
Well, it also depends on what you do. So
yeah,
it can be spoilers if you are wanting this action or not.
You formulate your own story as what it is, and what happens is that if somebody Rex dies in the first game, he's not going to be there in the second or the third.
Yep.
And I think that is a truly magnificent thing for a game to have, where your weights truly have actions and you can see the forward rippling consequences that are going to happen within the next couple of games in that series.
I'm just scared even trying to do that, where it's especially for the second game where you have to do these loyalty missions and then it determines who dies in the suicide mission. I'm just scared to no, I don't want anyone to die at all. I don't want Rex to die. I don't want Kaidan or Ashley to die, even though he had to choose between one.
Or perhaps then you can actually choose for certain people to die too.
That's true.
If you really don't like somebody, I really did not like Jack.
Yeah, that was one thing, but I kind of felt sorry for Jack, which again, that almost started a relationship accidentally, even though I tried to go for Miranda. But either way, I can understand that. But again, you're able to put yourself into Shepard's shoes and be able to do what you feel like Shepard should do, and be either the courageous, loyal leader or be a bloodthirsty bandit, or I don't know exactly the term.
Just to be clear about what Eric and I are talking about, this game, Mass Effect, is a series that was developed by BioWare. It takes place in this neo-futuristic universe where we're living in Mars and a bunch of other planets. We've discovered discovered other forms of life in the Milky Way. We've gone to war with other forms of life in the Milky Way. And you know what? Your role is Commander Shepard. He is a soldier who has been tasked with trying to bring down a rogue agent named Saren in the first game, and that reveals to him the actual
Reapers.
Existence of the Reapers, which are a synthetic life form which has destroyed organic life every single time that it gets too high and mighty.
And sort of a weird little cycle that repeats. And the last people that did sort of try to fight off the Reapers were the Protheans?
Protheans, you got that right.
Yeah, I said Prometheans last time.
Yes, the Prometheans are an actual race.
You said Prometheans.
No, I'm correcting you. The Promethean people are actually a group of people on the Earth.
Yes, I know. But that's kind of what I thought. Either way, that they were the people that built us up or something like that. But either way, the last race. And then in the second game, you unfortunately die in the first 5 minutes, no doubt. But you come back, you work for a company called Cerberus, sort of like this mercenary.
It's a pro-human group, basically.
Yeah.
They're trying to save humanity from the Reapers, or try to find a way to actually
stop them or control them.
the Reapers.
And you get a band of different people with different powers, or even old allies like Garrus and Talia, and then you fight them.
Talia?
Tali?
You mean Tali Zora Vasnima?
You know what I mean. Tali.
Yes. I know what you mean, Eric.
I get names wrong. You know that.
And then in the third game, it's the epic conclusion that we've all been waiting for, and it's an absolutely epic series.
The fight for Earth.
That you actually have to play game by game by game, and actually think about what you want from going from the first game into the second game.
It is the fight for Earth in the third game, even though for majority of time you're not on Earth until like the last chapter, and you're building up your army to fight the Reapers and stop them at Earth.
What's really fun, I think, in the Mass Effect series is actually the characterization and the level of emotional ties that you've got to these characters that you've talked to within the series. Garrus, Mordin. All of these characters that you actually get a real connection to. They take the time to tell you their backstory, and if you don't feel like it, then they're just going to die because you don't really care about them anyway.
Yes, it is interesting characters like Thane.
Thane is ultimately interesting.
And especially when you learn about Legion's background and learning all about the Geth. It would be like, whoa. Mind-blowing.
Exactly, and that is something that is really, really well illustrated within the game, because you get to form relationships with these people, and based on how you've interacted between the two of them, they can either hate you by the end of the game and end up dying in the suicide mission that you have to fight, or that you have to go through, or they can end up living. You can actually
dedicate themselves, really determined to help you with the cause.
And I think it's a very, very interesting concept, because especially once they introduced DLC to the second game and ultimately to the third, these sort of DLC
they added
components,
characters too.
They added characters, as well as they added a
missions
sense of it deepened your relationship to the characters even more. Like, for example, the Citadel DLC pack for the Mass Effect 3 game, where you get to actually go on more than just one date and have sex with more than just one time in the game.
Wait, have you played this?
Yeah, Citadel DLC. Have you not played it?
No, I haven't. I need to try this.
Yes, you do. Eric, where have you been for like the past
year and a half?
No, like the past 6 months. I was playing that during the summer, dude.
Well, I was in Rome for a month, okay? I was gone. I didn't know you were playing Mass Effect during that time when I was in Italy. But
I guess that's true.
Either way. And also, like, there is, like, some mission, like, I remember on the second Mass Effect, it was, like, it came in with when I bought, like, the premium edition of Mass Effect 2, where you get to go to the remains of the first Normandy and, like, collect sort of, like, little different things, and you just remember each little thing that happened on the Normandy. It was like, wow. That's powerful.
It is a very, very powerful scene. I think that it is easily one of the best games, and especially
IGN said it was like the number one Xbox game out 25. So I'm not surprised, even though it is a cheat by naming 3 games, but it is one game entirely.
And I think what is also really important to note is that though the first 2 games did not have a multiplayer aspect to them, in fact, none of the games have multiplayer aspects, but the third game does allow you to play on Xbox Live and actually do battles to control different parts of the Milky Way system. And this is one of those things where I believe that you and I have played together on this.
Did we? I know I've played some of the online, but that was a while back. It seemed like sort of like regular fighting, like horde mode or something like that.
It is basically a horde mode, and I think it was you and I that played. Otherwise, I might be mistaken. It might be another couple of friends or friend that I have here that I've been playing with very, very desperately. And It's a lot of fun to actually go in these, and you actually have to collect. You have to buy different packs using the points that you get within the battles.
I think I remember
to
that.
actually get different kinds of characters. You can actually play as different races. You can actually play as different classes, and this allows you to master each and every one of the classes that you get.
Yep, I think I do remember that. We gotta do that again sometime, maybe like this week.
Unfortunately, we can't both do it at the same time.
No! Oh, well. Either way.
Anyway, that is Mass Effect. Is there anything, though, that was kind of disappointing about the games?
Are we going to talk about the ending in this one, or is that for the Up to Debate?
Oh, no. We can definitely talk about the ending. So
you tell your opinion about the ending.
I've gone on entire rants about this ending of this game. And if you actually don't want to hear the spoilers, please turn off your radio for like the next
5 minutes.
2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'm going to go on a 2-minute rant here.
Okay.
And I'm just going to say that the ending of this game, literally, even though your actions have influenced everything that you've done up to this point, at the end you get raised up to this place with this little ghost kid. I don't even remember what he's called.
The Syndicate, or
no.
The Crucible, or I don't know.
The weapon is the Crucible.
Either way, there's a little kid ghost that was the creator or maker or
the maker of the Reapers, and basically he says, you've got all of your choices come down to this. You have 3 choices for the end of the game. You can either destroy the Reapers and destroy all synthetics, knowing that you will also die because you are also synthetic, partially. And that will cause you to be free, but not for long, because eventually he will create more synthetics, and those synthetics will kill you. The second ending is to try and do controlling of the Reapers and just try and use them for your own benefit and to benefit humanity. And that is sort of the elusive man in the elusive man's path that that he wants to control the Reapers rather than destroy them, because he thinks that they're an asset for humanity. The final ending is that you can do basically a symbiosis where everything organic and inorganic combines together into a new form of DNA, and it's just an absolutely awful set of endings.
There's also there's a fourth ending, technically, where either is during the dialogue, if you hit like the renegade trigger, you shoot the kid, or even if you shoot the kid, then he's like, the cycle will go on. So that's actually a fourth ending.
When does this happen? I've never seen this.
Well, that's because you didn't realize it. It's just something that you just do in the spare of the moment, because I think Angry Joe said, can we just shoot this kid? And actually they put that in the patch, and you could actually shoot the kid and he would be like, fine, the cycle will go on, and the battle still continues. And unfortunately there's the tape recording of Liara going, we tried to fight the Reapers, but it was not enough, or something like that.
But basically this is how it ended the first time, and people were not happy with it, so they put in a patch, and even the patch was not good enough. It's a series of screenshots and pictures where all they're doing is showing different things that are happening, and it's being narrated by Edie.
Technically,
of all characters,
actually,
Edie.
That's only one of those endings. Also, it could either be narrated by Hackett or even Shepard, depending what your ending you chose. But my opinion on it was that even though, yes, the first ending was pretty bad, the patch up definitely cleared up a lot of stuff, like where the Normandy went, especially right before you go to the beam and to the Citadel, how you see your teammates going away and getting away.
Yes,
and then also there's still not only screenshots, there are still some CGI scenes, like how I remember Amanda puts on a plates that says Commander Shepard, and there's some weird animation that goes on there. For what they did, I appreciate that they listened to the public and fixed as much as they can in such a short amount of time. I appreciate what they did, and yes, I can understand it wasn't exactly what everyone wanted, but it was definitely a little better. And I know that you said it's basically like putting a Band-Aid on a severe cut.
Like an open wound, yeah.
Yes.
But you know what? Yeah, it fixed a lot of continuity issues.
It fixes over time.
It fixed a lot of continuity issues. We got to get to a break here, but when we come back, we're going to be doing our Up for Debate segment on games and sexuality. You are listening to The Game Corner here on VIC Radio.
The Game Corner.
Skipper,
Don't you think we're a little past titles?
you'll always be the skipper to me. Oh, Captain, my Captain. We're mutineers, sailing a stolen warship into the most hostile system in the galaxy. Death closes all, but something ere the end, some work of noble note, may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Mass Effect.
You are listening to The Game Corner here on VIC Radio. That was our Ashley bump going into our games and sexuality
Where
up
she
for debate.
flirts with Commander Shepard in the first game, if I'm correct.
That is the first game. You are correct there, Mr. Jaworski.
Oh, thank you very much. But yeah, especially one thing that the Mass Effect series has definitely brought up a lot is sexuality in video games, and not only just with humans, but also with different species, and of course with the third game, sexuality or gender preferences.
Well, it's been like that not just for the third game, but for the first game. In the first game, all three games. We're going to say this right now. All three games, you can have sex with somebody on your team. It's able to be done in every single game. And there was a huge uproar when the first game came out, let alone the third. But the thing is that I think the main problem that a lot of gamers and parents had, and this was mind-boggling to me, is the idea that you can actually have homosexual sex in this game. You can have gay sex.
In the third game.
In the third game and in the first game.
Really?
Women can sleep with Liara.
Oh, I did not know that.
And I'm just going to put it out there, the question that what effect does sexuality and sexual scenes in video games actually have on the game itself? And is it absolutely necessary for the game? And is it wrong to have things like homosexuality in there?
I think, because even though like this game is very cinematic, but unlike a movie, you do have choice, and players do have their choice of what they want to exactly do. And if a person hates homosexuality, then they don't need to be a character that, promotes homosexuality. It's an option for those other gamers who are either female and are lesbians or bisexuals, or even male players who are gay. It fits those demographics. It tries to make those demographics as much as possible. That's why I feel.
I think the main problem that a lot of gamers gamers are approximately 60% male.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those males are also straight males. And I think the one thing that a lot of these people don't want to see, and this is extremely bigoted language, is that they don't want to see their art form and their sort of thing that was just theirs fall to women and gays. And I have a major, major problem with that.
That is just ignorance right there, to be honest.
It is ignorant. And looking at the stats, I couldn't find anything about what percentage of gamers are actually gay, but I did find that 40% of gamers are women. 80% of those play Wii. 11% are on the Xbox 360, and 9% are on the PS3. I'm sure that those numbers will transfer over towards the new-gen systems as well. And, you can't just... we were watching this talk with Dave Gator, who is the...
writer for BioWare, right?
One of the writers for BioWare. He is working on Dragon Age 3 right now. And he was talking about, originally, they were marketing this towards who they thought their main demographic was, and it had nothing to do with sexism or being anti-gay or anything like that. And then eventually, when enough people said, hey, we want to have more options for our sort of demographic, he started to open it up and really open up into different games. Mass Effect is just one game out of a bunch of games BioWare has done where you can have sex with different people of your team.
Yeah, even on Dragon Age. I remember, like, Dragon Age 2, you able to have sex with an elf, a man elf, and, like, a male mage at the same time, at different times. So, technically, the homosexuality in video games they've been around for a little while, actually, now that I think of it. But it definitely struck a lot of people for Mass Effect 3. probably because of the idea of Commander Shepard becoming gay.
Well, the thing is, you can be gay to begin with, but only if you're a girl in the very first game. They changed that around so that I think you could have... I don't know if they really changed it around too much in the second game.
I'm wondering if it's like man service to like the male players, because again, I'm looking at the demographics and there's only like 11% of females that play the Xbox 360, and there's only 40% that play video games. So majority.
Even so, you can't ignore that demographic. That is the main point here, and I think what
I'm just wondering if that's a question. If the first game was, if they only had the females to be gay. That's what they wanted, was to, like, appease males in lesbian sex. That's what.
Right. And a bunch of different very conservative groups have had problems with this. There have been Christian groups who say, this is a sinful game. You can't play this. You can't put this out on the market for our children. Parent groups have protested this sort of thing for years and years and years, where they say you can't show sexual scenes to children, and it's not gonna. I don't think it's necessarily hurting anybody. The role of sexuality in the game, to me, in my opinion, is that it's supposed to further your relationship with one character,
the story,
or
it's for the story,
or multiple characters if you want to, across a bunch of different games.
And they do have the option of not actually having sex.
This is very true as well.
So, again, unlike GTA, where, again, with the whole torture, that you can't skip it at all, but with, especially I remember in, like, Mass Effect 2, how I almost got in a relationship with Jack, but I was like, no, I said no for that. So that is an option that they can choose whether they want to have sex or not.
This is true. And, I think it's very important that you put these sorts of adult situations in games, especially if they're marked M, because that allows you to show the mature players what an actual mature adult relationship can be like. You can actually learn from games like this rather than just rely on just preconceived notions and what your parents believe or other people believe should be right.
Yes, learn how to have a interesting relationship with a man and an alien.
We're not taking this literally, Eric.
I'm joking about it, okay?
I know. But the Up for Debate segment, I think it's a really, really interesting concept of a mix of bigotry, a mix of people not wanting to give up what they think is a art form for them and should be only allowed for them. And I think that this is where we need to really look at the idea of sexuality and see what role does it play typically in a movie, what role does it typically play in a TV show.
I think, again, where video games are still an evolving acceptance for the world, and especially how it's making, like, like risky moves, just like as art and movies back in the day did, where people thought this was offensive, and then they kind of got accustomed to it and then just moved on with it. I feel this is just sort of like another roadblock of art in a way, and accepting video games to become more like art.
Here's another question that kind of just came to mind here. In the Fable series, you're able to get married, have kids, whatever, and you're able to have sex in that game as well. But when you go to have sex with your wife, and in future games you can have sex with people that aren't your wife and things like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, what role does... And when you go to have sex, the screen blacks out. Yeah. You can't see it. You just hear really, really odd and funny sounds.
We got a bum in the oven or something like that.
Ugh. Eric, you just made me physically ill.
You're welcome.
Ugh.
Anyways.
Ugh. Anyway, but what my point is here is what role does seeing the act, because you can see it in Mass Effect, you can see bare naked skin, especially on the backside of like Ashley or Liara, especially in that first game. What role does it have to see the act happening versus not seeing it, do you think?
I mean, They don't show like frontal nudity. You don't see nipples at all.
No, you do not. You do not see any full frontals.
Maybe a little bit of ass crack, but nothing else. So that's the other thing where it acts just like a PG-13 movie or even a TV show. Wait, why'd you slap your?
Because I don't want you to say that word over the air.
Well, too late. I already did and accidentally did. But yeah, it's not revealing anything like the recent GTA did, where you have strippers right in front of you and you're able to see like having sex in a car. But it's not. Again, it's the cinematic. It is very cinematic and it is very poetic, I gotta say, in a way.
I mean, I think of it as a more emotional connection, that you have more emotional connection to actually seeing the scene, and that allows you to get closer to the game character.
Mm-hmm.
Versus when you don't see it and you hear all of these comedic noises, you think that... I actually think Fable is doing a disservice to its players by not allowing you to see it, because it looks at sex as almost kind of like a joke, but then again, everything in that game is a joke, so...
Basically.
I can't really speak much for it. Anyway, if you have any sort of thoughts on this topic, if you want to say that sexuality should not be in video games, sex scenes should be completely excluded, or if you want to agree with us, go ahead and tweet at us at VIC Game Corner, or tweet at DJ Nick J or at Eric Jaws, and it is awesome. If you want to talk to us about it, we are more than open to talking to you guys. Also find us on Xbox Live at DJ Nick J and Eric Jaws. We're going to be back here on the Game Corner with our gamer, Craig Collins, and he's going to tell us about some things, how his experience was, right after this. Stay tuned here to the Game Corner on VIC Radio.
The Game Corner.
Nobody would give me a mirror. How bad is it?
Hell, Garrus, you were always ugly. Slap some face paint on there and no one will even notice.
Oh, don't make me laugh. Damn it, my face is barely holding together as it is. Honestly, the collectors killed you once and all they did is piss you off. I can't imagine we'll stop you this time.
Mass Effect.
We are back here on the Game Corner. I am Nick Jerzak.
And I'm Eric Jaworski.
And we are here with our gamer, Craig. Craig, are you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
All right, Craig. Craig is actually a producer over at WGN Radio in Chicago. He does a lot of things with the Nick DiGilio show, and he is actually somebody that I talked to about Mass Effect over the summer, and probably one of the only WGN people who I actually talked video games with at such an extensive level.
Right.
So we're just going to dive into things here, Craig. What do you like about the Mass Effect series?
Oh, man, and I was listening to you guys before, and I want to touch on a couple of things you guys mentioned about the sexuality in the game, and then also Mass Effect 3 and how they kind of addressed the fan reaction to the crappy ending they had the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But what I love about the games is just the role-playing aspect and how great BioWare is at that, because you can get a lot of different role-playing games, but BioWare specifically makes you really invest in the characters, and it just makes it a lot more rewarding, and also a lot more of a letdown in that third game when it doesn't end the way you want it to.
Yeah, and you know what? We're actually going to get to that sort of thing that we were doing in the Up for Debate topic a little bit later in the questioning. Eric,
What do you don't like about it? Any like things that you hate besides possibly the ending?
Yeah, right. Beside the ending to the third one, if I was really trying to critique Mass Effect, I think that the first game was the pinnacle of the best in the writing aspect, and the second game was the best for playing. Like the actual experience playing through the second game and the suicide mission to me was the most rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
The third game really let me down from start to finish, just because I think the original writer from the first game wasn't involved at that point, and that really hurt it.
Mm-hmm.
And just it seemed where it wanted to go from the first game and then maybe into the second game, and where it eventually went in the third game just seemed to be a lot less than what they had originally set out to do. Just a lot more simplistic and a lot very disappointing to me, I guess.
I can see that.
you touched on the ending of the game a little bit earlier and how it made fans angry. You know, how did you feel about it? How do you think that the way they fixed it, do you think that was sufficient? What are your thoughts on that sort of thing?
Oh, man, Nick, I was all over like the blog sites with all the other crazy people. I was part of everything that they did, trying to say that we needed to take Mass Effect back because it was just terrible.
Did you like the Facebook page?
Yeah, I was on everything. And anywhere that I could be, I was saying horrible things about the third game's ending just because, like, the continuity aspects that you guys mentioned first and foremost were beyond disappointing. The fact that they, like, left everyone just in space originally and you didn't know where anybody was, essentially. We were all just maybe in Earth space and all the relays were completely destroyed. That was really dumb. And I think I know what they were trying to do, but they had to do it a little bit better and give us a little bit more because the way they left it for us was just way too open. And if you wanted to end the series, or at least end Shepard's series there, you had to give us a little bit more of an ending, especially with his love interest. So just amazingly disappointing in a few different ways. And when they went back and tried to answer the fan request to do something, and they tied those holes together a little bit, a really crappy scene when you're running up to the little final laser to go up for the final part of the mission, and you see the ship swoop back in and pick up everyone in your party except you. That I thought was really crappy. I thought that was, that didn't make any sense the first time you played through it. If I had seen that from the beginning, it would have been weird. And just for it to be filling a plot hole made it even more annoying. But I don't know. I'm getting worked up.
What about the little graphics that you see in between with just Edie or some other character narrating? What about that? Did that do anything for you, or do you think that should have been all CGI and you should have gotten the voice actors and you should have done it professionally and gotten like this full cinematic ending?
Again, they had so much to reply to that.
Well, yeah, okay. See, so obviously that would have been a lot of an undertaking financially for BioWare. If they actually decide to do that much additional work, and then release it for free, because that was a big thing too, is that when they were going to release the DLC, people said we refuse to pay for that. There's no way, especially with the Prothean being something you had to pay for just from the beginning. Javik's whole, addition to the game seemed really important from the beginning. If you had played since game one, but you actually had to pay for that first day DLC. For the ending to also be, paid for DLC, it just wasn't going to work. So I understand that they couldn't do more. But I think if you were going to go back and address it at all, you really should have maybe spent a little bit more money than they did. Those little narrations and the really bad art just was so out of place if you're looking at it as a whole game. If you had played that through and not known anything about whether or not they were rewriting it, addressing issues, when you saw that final ending, you would have been like, what the hell is this? Why did they do this instead of a more thorough or more developed ending with the CGI, with everything else that you mentioned?
Someone agrees with you, Nick.
This is where I make fun of Eric because every single guest we've had on this show has agreed with him so far.
The streak is gone. But
there you go.
What do you think about the sexual themes in Mass Effect? And are the sex scenes problematic for the video games?
You mean in general, like, what do I think about sex scenes in video games or sex scenes in Mass Effect?
Kind of both.
A little bit of both, yeah.
Okay, so I heard you guys mention this a little bit ago, that you said that one of the things that people react to is that these can't be things that we give to children. Like, you can't have games out there that kids are going to see that have sex in them. And my big argument to that, and I think this is where people have to understand that video games have come a long way, is that these specific video games, Grand Theft Auto, Mass Effect, they're not for kids. The people who should be buying these games are not children. And so, especially for Mass Effect, nothing you see in any of the games goes beyond what you would see in a PG-13 movie. So I don't think that as long as you're being a responsible parent and not allowing a kid too young to buy a game like this, that, it's inappropriate. It's definitely appropriate, and I think this might sound weird, but I think it does tie you more into the story if you get to see stuff like that. It makes it more realistic than to just have them all of a sudden be off screen and to hear some funny noise, and then that's it. It's all over. I think it made it more realistic.
He's got my back, Eric. He's never going to let me down here.
I wasn't denying you with the sexual stuff though, so that's why. This is the ending I only had debated about.
A lot. And you probably heard us talking about the whole homosexual aspect of it, and a lot of how there was a lot of uproar from parents and the straight male gamers thinking that they can't have this sort of thing in the game. This is for us. This is our sort of thing that we wanted to just have for us. And why do you think people are so uncomfortable with the idea of homosexual characters? I can't talk today.
Yeah, I don't know. And Dragon Age had actually done that before. So Dragon Age had homosexual relationships, male homosexual relationships. That was the big thing. And I think, Nick, you mentioned this too, that in the first Mass Effect game, if you played as Femme Shep, you could have sex with Liara, who was a girl. So no one cared if it was lesbian sex because it's all dudes playing the games, and I guess we're crappy that way.
That's what I said.
Right, but the second Dragon Age game allowed you to have, guy-on-guy kind of situations, and then so did Mass Effect 3. I actually bought Mass Effect 3 at midnight, and the guy in front of me was a gay guy who was psyched that he could finally have a relationship with Kaidan. He was like, I saved Kaidan. I don't know why I'm still with Kaidan. I don't know what's going on here. I just really want to have a relationship with Kaidan. So I think it just adds another layer and appeases more fans, and the people who don't, want to be involved in that. Like me, I'm a straight gamer, so I didn't, have a gay relationship. Kaidan came on to me, and I was like, you know what, man, let's just pound it out and be friends.
That's fair enough.
That is definitely fair enough.
Now let's get to personal stuff. Your experience throughout the entire game. Was there any particular romance or story plot that you'd like to follow, or how did you play the game? What was your class, or were you a good guy, Paragon, or Renegade?
So it's hard to answer that question because I played it so many times just because I'm one of those gamers that wanted to be thorough.
Fair enough.
Me
So
too.
I did play as a lot of people, but I think my main story, the main one that I had, I was a Vanguard, and I was, Paragon, just a good guy, didn't say anything bad at all. And for relationships, I picked Liara in the first game, of course, because Ashley was a bigot. And then in the second game, I cheated on Liara with Miranda because how could you not? And then in the third game, seriously, I had to reel that back in and get Liara back on my side.
Oh my God, you just made me laugh out loud.
It's her buttocks.
Yeah, man.
It's her buttocks.
How could
That's
you
why.
not?
It's her buttocks.
It's true, and every time that they'd freeze the camera, you'd be like, wow, I have to sleep with her.
It's an Ash. There's always an Ash shot of her.
Oh my God.
Even in the third game, there was.
Yeah, I guess you've always wanted to be. Whenever you play Mass Effect, you always want to be the good guy, even when you start up. What characters were your favorites?
Oh man, Rex was one of my favorite characters in all the games. I was so disappointed when Rex wasn't more featured in the second game, but thrilled that he came back. And then with the Citadel DLC, you actually get him to be in a mission with you. He was one of my faraway favorites. Garrus, how do you go wrong with that guy? He was in almost all my parties through all three games.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a lot of the regular characters from the very first game just in Tali. I had a relationship with Tali a couple times in some of my second and third playthroughs, and that was really rewarding too, to get to the point where the picture of her face was atrocious, but to get to that point was cool.
Now,
Mordin.
do you feel like what do you feel about the actual characters in this game versus characters in other games? Do you feel like you actually get connected to these guys a little bit more than you would like other characters?
Mordin.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Was
Definitely.
there more of a question there?
No.
I'm just
sorry.
crying because of Mordin.
Eric, enough
it's
with the
Morden.
crying.
No, Morden, that's terrible. And if you played as a renegade, you had to kill Morden. That was the worst.
What?
Yeah,
He
if you
dies
played as a
anyway.
renegade- well, yeah, no, actually, there's one way that you can keep him alive.
Well,
but we
that's
don't want to
true.
get into that. But anyway, to answer your question, Nick, I think the reason that BioWare is so much better at connecting you to the characters is just the choices you get. The fact that I get to respond and have choices throughout the whole game, every single dialogue, I get to say what I feel like is something different, even though as the games progress, the amount of dialogue changes you had were very minute and barely changed the story at all. It still made you more connected to everyone. To be able to choose to flirt or to be able to choose to say like a positive or a negative thing to a character made me more connected to them and made me feel like I was actually, taking part in a conversation. Other video games don't do that very well. So BioWare definitely has a golden star for that.
And speaking of BioWare, they're already talking about Mass Effect 4. I see that you're kind of following it already. I kind of did the whole Facebook looking at your Facebook page. Don't get mad at me for that.
That's okay.
It's not going to have Commander Shepard, but what kind of story do you want to see? What new features do you want available to you in that sort of game?
Okay, so I guess they're going to call it Mass Effect 4, but it's supposed to take place in a completely different, time setting or galaxy or anything. What I had really hoped for is that if Commander Shepard wasn't a playable character, that if you did have him survive through the third game, which you could do, that he popped up somewhere. that you could like bump into him as maybe the Han Solo kind of guy who's not
Of
really
course.
helping you out. Yeah. But since that's probably not going to happen, I guess I'm okay with the idea, if it is a lot like Mass Effect, the original game, to be brought in again by BioWare to a whole new... I want them to make a decision. I want them to have some connectivity to the first three or absolutely none. And I think they'd be afraid to have absolutely none because it might not sell as well, but I would prefer that, actually.
Do you think it would make a difference if they did it a prequel versus a sequel, like a prequel or something that happens after
Before the
Mass Effect 3?
series. Yeah.
See, so a prequel, the problem with a prequel is that they did such a good job of telling the story that I know the ending. No matter what the prequel is, I know how the First Contact wars end. I know,
Yeah, but
a lot of that.
imagine if
Say
you're
that-
playing the actual First Contact
And
war.
be a character that does, like, discover, like, the Turians or the Geth or fights
They
them.
they can leave that stuff for their movies. They can leave that to their actual movies. I don't want to play through that because I
Fair
know how it ends. I don't want to know how my game ends. So I would say sequel, but like I said a little bit ago, I don't want it to be very connected at all. I want it to be so far out in a different time and a different place that we're rediscovering the whole world again.
All right. Well, Craig, what other games are you looking forward to that are going to be coming out?
Oh man, well I'm still playing Grand Theft Auto 5. That's something I play all the time. So that's awesome.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, it sure is. I don't know. I mean, it's tough to pick other stuff besides Mass Effect 4, any other Assassin's Creed things. I play pretty much all that. But don't get into too much other stuff.
Now, I know you're into you're in the Chicago area. You love working for WGN.
Oh, I know what you're
And
talking about.
what about Watch Dogs? Come on, man. You
Well,
got to
sure,
talk Watch Dogs.
Well, sure. Yeah, Watch Dogs, it looks good. And I think you actually told me about it. I think that was something you told me about during your internship, and I've looked at it since then, and I'm going to buy it. It looks pretty amazing.
Right?
Yeah. No, for sure. I just don't know if any of that's going to be as good as Mass Effect, which is the pinnacle of what I play.
All right.
Chaos near the water tower. Anyways, are you comfortable with giving out your gamer tag?
Yeah, it's Rygoku, Rygoku.
And if people want to play with you on GTA 5, Mass Effect, any of those games, they can just find you and play with you, right?
Yeah, sure.
All right, man. Well, it's been real. It's been awesome having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We definitely look forward to seeing if you can return on another guest spot at some point, because you are awesome. You're absolutely awesome and hilarious.
Thanks, dude.
We're going to be right back here on the Game Corner when we talk about music in the game. So stay tuned for that. You're listening to the Game Corner here on VIC Radio.
The Game Corner.
My project, my work, my cure, my responsibility. Had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong.
Mass Effect.
Easily one of the saddest moments in all of video game history. And it's partially because of not only your emotional connection to the character, but also the music. This is the Game Corner here on VIC. I'm Nick Jerzak.
Morning! And I'm Eric Jaworski.
Anyway,
That scene always kills me.
We're talking about the Mass Effect music, and I think what's really important is to talk not only about the style, but its actual presence in the game as well. I think, starting off with the style, Eric, that the style of the music is this sort of electroacoustic, synthesizer-y sort
Piano.
Well,
for the third one,
especially
at least.
especially in the first one, they did a lot of synthesizer, and it really tried to put you into a futuristic space atmosphere, yeah, where you're similar to Star Trek or Star Wars, and I think that was something that really tried to make the setting clear of where you were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt, because it was their first game, and I don't know if they were expecting to have a sequel to it or not. Well, actually, probably, yeah, because of the ending. So it definitely created that environment very well, whether you're on the Normandy and, like, you hear, like, I don't know what to describe it. It's just like a little hum.
There's a hum, and then when you open up the galaxy map, it does this, like, this sort of, like, exploration sort of thing. Like, you're going deep into the abyss. Captain's log, day number 292
here on the Normandy.
Here on the USS Normandy or whatever it is, and I think it's absolutely amazing. It
The Joker
really
is annoying as always.
Joker's half the fun though.
I know. I'm just joking, like as if that's on the log. Joker made another joke, as always.
Yup, and I think that it also does the mini settings really well. Not only does it give you the time of your adventure, but it also gives you the place, especially when you go into, I don't know, a club like on oh man, I can't even remember the world.
Either way, it was like that
It's this like
banded world.
like your typical club sort of music, but it's got a futuristic sense to it. Eric, that's enough.
Okay.
Should we take a look at the actual Mass Effect theme to give sort of a sample of what it's like? Okay.
Again, you'll hear that sort of like humming electric sound, I believe.
That's creepy.
But it draws you in.
This is true.
See, and of wonder in a way, I gotta say.
It's a adventure that has started. We are going deep into space right now. We don't know what's happening.
Just slowly traveling in space.
And
Complete
the camera
blackness.
pans up, and you just see your hero looking out to the
Earth.
the stars and the Earth, and it's a wonderful thing. And it just shows that he's this heroic person. Either that or completely barbaric, depending on what story you choose.
Mm-hmm. Building up a little more. And then sort of like narration from
Udina, Captain Anderson.
then title card. And yeah, here you got that like little sort of like beeping in a way.
And it makes you feel like you're on the USS Enterprise, actually.
Yep, no doubt. It makes you feel as if you're a part of an epic adventure, a space voyage.
You know,
Which-
is it ironic that I saw Star Trek this summer? The
new Star Trek?
Yeah, the new Star Trek, and this just kind of started playing in my mind.
No doubt. When I saw the new Star Trek movie and I was like seeing the guns, I was like, damn, this is basically a movie version of Mass Effect, or Mass Effect is a video game version of Star Trek. Either way, I was like, they should, if they do make a Mass Effect movie, it's going to definitely look just like Star Trek.
I think the one thing that's important to note with the music as well is that it also highlights very important plot points.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're watching Morden die and it's that explosion, it's got this, like, he's the hero, he's going
Yeah.
in to save everybody, and even though he's going to die, he knows he's going to die.
And so like a final send-off.
It's like it just builds your emotions even more.
It definitely builded my emotions.
I know, we were basically both crying when Morden died.
Morden. Anyways, so we listen to it?
Actually, I don't have that track, but what I do have is kind of a send off from when you're leaving Earth in the third.
In the
game.
third one, yes. And it kind of almost has a little bit hints of Hans Zimmer with like the horn section with the brrrr.
Well, that, and it shows the danger of the Reapers as well.
Yeah, it makes your fight even more desperate, or either way, like you have something to fight for.
But the whole idea of using music as a sort of plot thing is not really even new to this game. It is something that has been used in film for ages.
No doubt. The game series is very cinematic, and we could definitely hear it in the music if you play.
Yes, I'll play it right now. Hang on 1 second. Here we
Right
go.
now?
This is Leaving. Is it called Leaving Earth?
It's Leaving Earth, yes.
Leaving Earth from the third Mass Effect game. Now this
Imagine seeing Vancouver, was it?
it is Vancouver.
Complete destruction as you are flying off and seeing Reapers.
Just
destroying,
descending and destroying everything in their path.
killing everyone that you see in the streets with all the, I don't know, like those cannibal or whatever those things.
Cannibals and the Marauders and all those guys. They're all definitely Reapers.
That was an explosion there. Like you see a live explosion. Things are exploding more and more.
And one thing that it's important to also note is that this same sort of a riff, no, not really a riff. I think it's a what was the thing that we used last week? Oh, gesture.
Oh, okay.
Gesture. This gesture on the piano is being played in your final moments in the game as well, when you're making your choice at the very, very end of what to do with the Reapers.
Well, actually, yeah, it goes on like after you make your choice and you see what your choice it makes.
And it makes you feel that much more sad or
Happy for
heroic.
what's going.
But you're grieving the loss of Shepard as this sort of thing plays. And I think that is very, very emotional for players to actually watch your player die and actually give himself up for the greater good of humanity.
But you feel that you've done something great in the end, even if you died for it, because you saved humanity as it is and all life in the galaxy.
And every single major plot point has this along the way. In Mass Effect 1, when you have to choose between Ashley or Kaidan to actually die and who you want to save, it's playing music all the while you're doing that. It's when you're finally trying to fight against Saren when he's been reanimated after he either shoots himself or you shoot him and kill him. And it plays that, and it gives you a sort of tone of desperation in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very, very impactful for how you're actually playing, if you're playing with even more intensity due to the music, or if you're playing and you're watching a cutscene and it makes you that much more emotionally attached to it.
It's definitely like those triggers that make you into the scene even more, and along with the music. Especially, like, it is music that definitely hooks people in, whether it's like a scary movie or scary game. It's definitely like that eeriness that brings you in. But again, with that, epic something to fight for music, it makes you want to fight even more in the game and be part of it.
Yeah, and like I said, every single important plot point, especially in Mass Effect 3, where they start incorporating not only the synthesizer, but the actual use of piano, which has a much more organic sound to it, and a much better sound to it, in my opinion, than just hearing the synthesizers of the first and second games. And honestly, it's inspiring. It's inspiring to watch you go in and hear a piano play as you're watching characters die, you're watching people give their lives, and even you're giving your life, and it's an inspiring thing. And
Tragic.
More people should use music for this purpose in video games.
No doubts.
You don't see it often, especially in RPGs. When you're playing the role of a character, you'll need to use music to actually get the emotions of that character across. You don't see anything like this in the Elder Scrolls Skyrim or anything like that.
Nope.
Because for whatever reason, they feel like music should only change based on what you're doing, not on what you're seeing.
Yep. But I guess that is...
That's basically it for us here on the Game Corner. We're going to have Fram Jam coming in for Cityscapes, and interested to hear what the actual city is this time around. Fram Jam, what do you got for us this time around? I can't possibly imagine. You had Dublin the first time and Ithaca the second. What do you got?
I have Detroit this week. It's gonna be amazing.
All right.
Detroit, interesting concept. Seeing as they're also bankrupt right now.
Yep.
You can't just choose. Cities
Popularity.
based off their economic
Or
viability
popularity.
right now. Detroit was one of the most thriving industries for music back in the 60s and 70s.
This is very true.
That's fair enough.
There you go. You can't ignore Motown.
Oh, definitely not.
No, hell no.
Yeah, they have to have their little corner here.
Exactly. And you know what? We're going to actually get into your music here in just a couple of seconds. For everybody here at the Game Corner, everybody here at VIC Radio, I'm Nick Jerzak.
And I'm Eric Jaworski.
Thank you for listening. The Game Corner will be off next week due to fall break, but the week after that, we're going to be doing Pokemon.
Okay.
And we're going to have guest gamer Jason Emery in studio with us, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I guess I need to be playing some Pokemon right now to be able to...
Have you even played Pokemon?
It's been a long time. I'm again, there's just so many Pokemon, like, that's just tough to remember names or their abilities, and I've literally, when I play them, I wasn't thinking about their capabilities, but either way, Fram Jam, that music...
Bad excuse. Anyway, here we go. We're going to have Cityscapes in just a matter of seconds here. You're listening to VIC Radio.